Um, okay, and now flip back to first screen, and I'm gonna. All right, so there's a couple things that we gotta do for the radio portion that we'll get started. So for those that are watching on our live feed, good morning. We are speaking with Kelly Krout. She is the Democratic nominee for Arkansas Lieutenant Governor. So definitely looking forward to having her today. And we will have the Libertarian candidate on also at 2:00 p.m. today. We have not heard back from the Republican nominee yet, but we will keep trying because we do want to hear from all of the candidates in all of the race. So everyone, please stand by. Just got a couple things got to do on the radio end, and we will be ready to get started. I'm actually breaking out my iPad now because I realize I got to have something to actually monitor the live feed. So we'll be getting ready to begin shortly. Okay.
That was exciting.
All right, let's switch over to the iPad, and we are getting ready to go live on the radio and begin in about KLK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Thursday. It's August 25th, 2022. This is Community Conversations. Kate Wonder is here with you, and joining us today is Kelly Krout. Kelly Krout is the Democratic nominee for Arkansas Lieutenant Governor. I'm so happy to have us joining us today. Let me go ahead and get a disclaimer. Kelly K, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. We do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. We provide these interviews for informational purposes only, but we do encourage you to exercise your right to vote. Election day is November 8th, and early voting will start October 24th. And I believe the last day to register to vote is October 8th. So if you're not registered to vote, go ahead and get registered and make sure that you vote. Educate yourselves on the candidates and make the choice for the one that most aligns with you. So with that, we're not going to waste any more time. Kelly, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right, so Kelly, just for those who may or may not be familiar with you, just kind of start off by introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you decided to run for Arkansas Lieutenant Governor.
Absolutely. So I'm Kelly Krout. I am running for Lieutenant Governor. I'm a mom. I'm a former foster parent. I'm a children's book author, and I recently finished my graduate degree in social work. So a lot of my focus is talking about policy that would help families and children. My husband and I spent about 10 years off and on here in the Northwest Arkansas area fostering, and just got to know a bunch of families, saw a bunch of holes in the system where people were maybe falling through the cracks or could have prevented being entered into the foster care system in the first place. And, they're just tough systems to navigate. There's often some overlap with the criminal justice system, which we have seen, again, just very difficult to navigate and can get very, very expensive. Makes it difficult for people without a lot of resources to succeed and get back on their feet. And so just getting to have kind of a front row seat to people struggling in these arenas made me want to step up and be an advocate. I actually grew up in Central Arkansas. I was born and raised in Russellville. My husband and I moved up to Northwest Arkansas about 18 years ago. And so this is home for us now. And Lieutenant Governor is kind of a quirky job. The job is to preside over the Senate and provide a tie-breaking vote, and then become the governor if the governor were to resign or die. It's a part-time job, but I kind of joke that it has like first lady vibes. You can has the ability to sort of pick a cause and run with it. And I just have a lot of things I'm really passionate about. Foster care is at the at the top of that list. And so looking forward to being able to use the position to advocate for awareness of some of the problems with some of these systems and highlight what we can do, and then pass the mic to the people who have the power to fix that. I'm not pretending Lieutenant Governor does have the power to fix everything, but it is a really unique position to be a megaphone. And that's something that I can be pretty good at. So that's sort of the Cliff Notes version of how I ended up running for this position.
Okay, and I'm looking on your website, which is kellyforarkansas.com. Again, that is kellyforarkansas.com. And you have a bunch of issues on here. I'm seeing abortion, climate, COVID recovery, criminal justice reform, education, equality, health care, investing in Arkansas, Second Amendment, and supporting Arkansas's family. So I'm going to actually lead with education because as you that are listening may or may not know, President Biden has issued his plan for student loan forgiveness, and it's got a lot of people talking both in support of and in opposition to. So just kind of want to get your thoughts on that, and also how that ties into the educational part of your platform.
Right. I mean, education is kind of a big issue everywhere, right? Because we've got, the teacher pay issue, and we had that special session and people were hoping that it would get put on the call. I value public education a lot myself. I grew up as the daughter of a public school teacher. I'm a product of public school. I watched my mom put in hours upon hours outside of the classroom, just serving these students and watching out for particularly vulnerable kids. So I know firsthand how hard they work and how much they care and how undervalued they are. I have 7 children, 6 of whom are currently in the public school system. And so, I value the public school system a lot. So we've got to be doing a better job of funding it. We've got to be paying our teachers what they're worth. We've got to value the profession. There's a lot of meddling that happens in the legislature with what can be done in curriculum and whatnot. And if we're going to require teachers to have X, Y, Z degree and continuing education and whatnot, we need to trust them to do their jobs. And then, of course, quality pre-K is just setting people up for success from the get-go. The student loan stuff coming up yesterday, I thought was very exciting. I'm thrilled. It was disheartening to see how many people were upset about it, because as we were chatting a little bit before the show, I'm going to be happy for somebody when something good happens for them. I may not personally benefit from this, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good thing for someone else. And I can celebrate that. So I think it's a step in the right direction. Everything I love to talk about, though, comes back to how can we prevent problems rather than reacting to them. So we have some big issues to deal with in the first place, that we had so much student loan debt to forgive in the first place. So it would be worth going back to talk about how we can make school more accessible and education more accessible for everyone at a reasonable price.
And I've read stories when it comes to people who owe student loans, because I think sometimes there's you have some people that believe that people just, oh, well, you shouldn't have went to school and should have did this or that. But there are people who went to school that are paying on their student. I've seen stories of people who took out student loans and are paying them back, but because of the interest and things that compound, that they paid on them for 10, 15, 20 years, and they still owe the same amount of money when they originally take them off. Like, well, I'm paying on these loans, but they're not decreasing. And it's unlike when you buy a house or you buy a car, you can eventually pay the car off, you can eventually pay the house off. But it seems like, these loans are being paid on and the balance isn't going down. And of course, that's probably something to look at with the lenders and people who issued them. Like, well, why is that? Especially for those good meaning people that are actually paying those loans back. Right.
There's always a lot of ways that we can tackle a problem. It's never a one-stop shop. So yeah, it's a huge problem to be paying. I was just talking to a friend the other day who had been paying on her student loans for 11 years, and it had just now hit the total of what the actual student loan amount was. She just been paying interest that entire time. And that's not sustainable for a lot of people. So it's not meant to be a lifetime payment.
Okay, and sticking with education, something else that has definitely been in the news lately a lot is the situation with the teachers wanting raises. The legislature, instead of giving the raises as they requested, opted not to. They said to wait till the next legislative session, and instead mandated that districts use their ESSER funds to give bonuses. And so Now that's been kind of thrown back to school districts, where some districts, were able to do the bonuses and still other things that they had originally planned to do with their funds. And then some are now in a position to where they have to either do the teacher raises or they have to do projects. So just kind of want to give your thoughts on that, as it relates to your education part of your platform.
Right. And it was so disappointing to see the rush to give this huge tax relief when we have this money that we could be working with. And I understand that those tax relief, that plan had already been approved, and we were just sort of speeding it up with that surplus. But we've got teachers who have been through, what they've been through these last couple of years. I can't fathom being a teacher during COVID. This has been so incredibly difficult. And so they need to feel supported more than ever right now. And they've always been under supported and undervalued. And so I would love to have more of a focus on that. And it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be teacher raises or tax cuts. We really could be doing both of these things. Not that I'm excited about the tax cuts for our most wealthy, but it didn't have to be such a black and white thing. We could still be valuing teachers. I know the stuff with the ESSER funds got real confusing and complicated, and some of these school districts had already allocated that money to go elsewhere. I know there was some debate as to how lawful that was to be able to reallocate some of that stuff. And so it can be overwhelming and confusing to look at, and it feels like that is by design, so that people kind of disengage, like, oh, I don't understand this enough to get involved. And so we need people who are willing to get in there and advocate and understand and simplify some of this for the rest of us who want to understand and be able to advocate well for teachers in public education.
All right, speaking with Kelly Krout, Democratic nominee for Arkansas Lieutenant Governor. And of course, I'm looking on your website. Once again, it is kellyforarkansas.com. And let's talk next about, let's talk about climate. And the reason why I bring that up is because recently, President Biden's new law was passed, and there's going to be provisions to address climate change. So how do you feel that will actually affect the state of Arkansas, and how would that tie into what you would do if you were elected lieutenant governor?
Yeah, we've seen, I'm sure everybody has been impacted by climate change, whether or not we realize that that's exactly what it is. But we continue to see the weather become more and more severe, putting families at risk. And we've got a chance to use more clean energy and generate new jobs that can offer clean energy, so we could be impacting the economy at the same time. I tell my kids all the time that if everyone does a little, no one has to do a lot, and they get so sick of me hearing it. But it really is going to take just a mass effort by a lot of people, of everybody pitching in a little bit to start making some kind of an impact. I worry that we are pretty far gone as some of the climate change stuff goes, but that should just add to our urgency to do a better job with clean energy.
Okay. All right. And of course, we're just going to now kind of just go down the list of the rest of them. So let's talk about abortion. Abortion, obviously, with the overturning of Roe versus Wade earlier this year, definitely energized the pro-choice movement, and it also energized the other side as well. And of course, you're starting to see this play out some of the elections that have happened since, I believe, I can't remember which state it was actually. They voted on whether if they wanted to keep their restrictions in place or to impose additional restrictions, and actually they voted not to. So kind of just explain your stance on it and how it would relate if you were elected lieutenant governor.
Right. So abortion access is healthcare, and I worry about where we're headed with some of these really extreme abortion bans. I get so frustrated with some of these conversations, because at the end of the day, the vast majority of us would like to see the abortion rate be lower. Like, that's not anybody's first choice for birth control, and is a pretty intense procedure. And so we could be doing a lot to prevent that in the first place by access to healthcare, access to birth control, and comprehensive sex education. So we could dramatically lower abortions, which would actually make most people happy. And so it doesn't really feel like that's the goal when we jump straight to an abortion ban, instead of talking about productive ways to actually prevent the need for them in the first place. But at the end of the day, there are always going to be scenarios where somebody needs or wants an abortion, and that is not really my concern or anyone else's concern. And so I'm very worried about that we've already seen these worst case scenarios popping up where an abortion was necessary and they had to wait because of all of these laws, and it's putting people's lives in danger. So it's not the pro-life policy that people tend to assume that it is.
Okay. And people, the plural, excuse me, sorry, I can't talk today. The pro-life movement always, you say, well, instead of having an abortion, just adopt. And the reason why I'm bringing this up to you, because I know when I've heard you speak other places, you've talked about being a foster parent. So kind of how does that tie into all of it, just based on your personal experiences?
Right. I think that's a great question. And I always try really hard to make a point to make them kind of two separate conversations. I see why they overlap for sure. But, an abortion is choosing not to continue a pregnancy. Adoption is choosing to be a parent. And adoption is not the simple answer to eliminating abortion. Adoption can be wonderful and beautiful and great. We've adopted, and I think that's fantastic, but it's also a really huge thing to do. It's very emotional. There's a lot of loss involved. It's not a simple solution by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, we served in the foster care community for a long time. So I know firsthand that DHS is making calls left and right that we don't have enough homes. There are not enough people who are helping right now. And, we've got a lot of work that we could do right this second before we've introduced a bunch of unplanned babies into our state. And so, yeah, I would really always push for awareness of hey, we've already got a really huge issue over here, and then this is a separate healthcare issue.
Okay, let's go to the Facebook comments. Don't have see any comments, but we do see another fellow Democratic candidate that is on, Diamond Johnson, who is running for auditor of state of Arkansas, and we'll be having Miss Johnson on a future day. So appreciate you, Diamond, for checking in on our Facebook Live feed. And of course, if you got a question or a comment, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We would definitely love to hear from each and every one of you that are listening and watching out there. So let's go on to COVID recovery, because obviously COVID-19 is still out there. In fact, that's the very reason why you're not seeing me on camera, because I am currently in quarantine because of my significant other currently dealing with the issue. So the COVID is still out there. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, man, don't we all wish that it were not? But, I'm a little worried about school because now we're tossing kids all right back in there, and, we don't have mask restrictions or anything anymore. And I see why we've kind of moved past it as things got better there for a bit, but we're going to continue to see surges. And, I hope that people continue to be flexible in adjusting when we need to, looking out for each other. Yeah, it's clearly not gone yet.
Okay. All right. And let's move on to equality.
Is that the whole, you just want me to talk about
equality? Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah. So I've got your website. And by the way, once again, that website is kellyforarkansas.com. So we're just kind of going through the issue. That's kind of something that I do when we do these interviews. Basically, we look on the candidate's website and we see the issues that the candidate feels strongly about, and we allow the candidate to talk about them.
Yeah, I think I did this last time. You were like, Second Amendment, and I was just waiting for the question, and then you were like, that's it, just go.
Well, like I said, it's the way that we do this. We kind of, it's about you, because you're trying to pitch yourself to the voters. So we like you to tell your story in your words.
I love it. Well, I'm ready. Well, equality is a big piece of the platform. I want Arkansas to be a place where everybody can live the life that they wish to lead without fear of discrimination or retribution or being held back by systems of power. And I want it to be somewhere that is inclusive and people feel loved and accepted for who they are. We saw a lot of policy in the last legislative session that was trying to target pretty vulnerable groups of people. I'm thinking specifically of the trans community. I'm thinking of the LGBTQ plus community, and how they got kind of picked on by our legislature. And I just really I see that I've got a lot of privilege. I'm very aware of that. And I'm trying to use that in a manner where I can advocate for equality and good policy that helps everyone.
Okay, now I'm going to actually throw you a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
And actually got inspired by seeing Diamond in the comments. So regardless of what happens in this election cycle, this is a historic election for Arkansas. You have yourself as a woman, you have Diamond Johnson, you have Natalie James running for U.S. Senate, you have Goldie Gaines running for Commissioner of State Lands, you even have Sarah Huckabee Sanders running on the Republican ticket of governor. You have a record number of women that are seeking elected office in Arkansas. So as a woman, how does that make you feel?
I think it's fantastic that we have so
Oh, and I
many.
forgot, and the one, and your other opponent, and
Yeah,
Leslie
Leslie.
Brothers. Don't want to leave out any women, because no matter, again, we
Right.
don't endorse or support, but Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, there are a record number of women that are running.
It's always a cool thing when you're doing something that's historic. Like either way, we're getting history with a governor. It's the first woman governor, it's the first African American governor, or the first woman lieutenant governor. You're getting that regardless, probably at this point. So yeah, it makes me. I love to see women step up to run. Of course, I would prefer women who support women's rights. I think that that's a pretty crucial piece. But we got a nice diverse ticket for the constitutional offices for sure, and I think that that is great to see. Women particularly are very underrepresented in the legislature. In Arkansas, we lag behind other states. We're 51% of the population, but only 24% of elected offices, I believe, at least at the state level. And so I'm excited to see more women stepping up to run, and hopefully we see a lot more of that in the future.
Okay, and of course, getting into the healthcare part. So, if you're elected, what would your number one focus be of healthcare when it comes to the state of Arkansas?
Everything to me comes down to accessibility. Like, how complicated is this to get? So anytime we can clean up a system and make it easier for someone to access what they need, I want everyone to have access to healthcare. Something that was really egregious, in my opinion, in the last legislative session was, trying to remove gender affirming healthcare for our trans youth, and really damaging to a lot of families, and very fear inducing for a lot of families. They no longer felt safe here. And so I really want to be able to advocate for better policy that is inclusive of everyone.
Okay, all right, and we've got about 8 minutes left, and so let's move on to investing in Arkansas.
Yeah, again, back to the preventative versus reactive nature. Here we're over here like, hey, we've got this surplus. Let's go ahead and make it easier for our most rich. Well, what if we were empowering people on the other side of the spectrum so that they could get more into something that is more sustainable for them? And so anytime we can be empowering people so that they can be more independent, sometimes we all need a little bit of help. Nobody, or very few people have gotten where they are without somebody helping them along the way. And so we can be a supportive government if we wanted to, and empower people to be able to do well on their own.
Okay, and Second Amendment. We're almost done. We went this pretty quickly.
We sure did. Yeah. So, Second Amendment, a lot of people kind of assume that Democrats feel a certain way about guns. I'm pro Second Amendment. My husband and I are a gun owning family. We store our guns locked, unloaded in a safe, because that is the safest way to store guns in a home with children. We're not out to take anybody's, firearms, but we need to be being more careful about our public health policy, and things like, safe storage, background checks, closing loopholes, things like this are not going to impact responsible gun owners, and they will save lives. So we need to be focusing on that.
Okay, and supporting Arkansas families.
Yeah. So like I said, we've got this foster care system that is bogged down and difficult. We've got education that we're struggling with right now. We've got all of these things that could be supporting and empowering families. The criminal justice system, I would throw in there as well. Like, how can we better advocate for people who are trying to, do the right thing and get back in good standing? Anytime we can support, empower, prevent an issue rather than react to it, it's going to be better in the long run for all of us. It is going to be cheaper in the long run for all of us. And, we're all doing well when we're doing well. And so let's make it easier for people to do that.
All right, and we do have some questions from the Facebook live feed. Robert Dwayne says, if you do win the primary, how would you go about reaching out to the voters who have previously voted MAGA? And again, that's his words, not mine, but are changing their minds about Trumpism and getting them to vote for you.
Yep. So good news. I won the primary. I didn't have a primary opponent, so I just sailed right through. My kids say I have a bye to the finals, so I will be on your ballot in November. But I do a lot of campaigning via social media, and kind of in a conversational style, which allows me to meet people who wouldn't necessarily be coming to Democratic, events or meetings, but they're just stumbling upon my stuff on social media. And I try very hard to present things in a non-judgmental way, in a way that brings people into the conversation. I actually used to be super conservative myself, and so I kind of understand where people are coming from and know the kind of things that changed my thinking about them. And so try to meet people there and have some respectful conversation. And that's a big part of the technique there.
And I'm glad you actually brought that up because, and that kind of ties into something that we talked about earlier, I think in our previous interview. I mean, there could be a scenario to where you, as the lieutenant governor, could be serving under a potential Sarah Huckabee Sanders administration, where you all would basically be from two different parties and two different approaches to
Right.
things. So, how would you be able to work with her, or even if she's not elected, but there's still a lot of other Republicans, libertarians, other parties um, in the state government to actually get some things accomplished? Because as we all know, there's gridlock all across the place.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it is a possibility because of the way that we do things in Arkansas. It's not a ticket. Everybody's elected individually. But I think my particular experience, having been pretty conservative, run in very conservative circles, I still have a lot of Republican friends who would still claim me as a friend, even though I'm running as a Democrat. So I don't have a problem, getting along with and working together with people who don't necessarily agree with me completely. I find that the vast majority of the time, there is something that we can agree on and some goal we can meet, which each of these issues that actually makes both camps happy. We already mentioned abortion. I think that we could lower abortion rates with several preventative measures, and that should be good with both sides. So we've just got to be able to be calm, a little less, divisive in the words that we're using, and think about what the actual end goal is and how we can work together to get there. And I think that I would be very comfortable doing that.
All right, Diamond Johnson, who once again is running for Arkansas State Auditor on the Democratic ticket. She asked, Kelly, you spoke about knowing your privilege, which you use it to advocate for targeted communities such as the Black and Brown community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very aware of the privilege that I've got to be able to run, just being a white middle class lady in Northwest Arkansas. And so I am always looking to listen and learn and see what is impacting other communities and how I can use my platform and my privilege to advocate on their behalf. Some of these things like the Second Amendment, some of the gun laws that we saw go through in the last legislative session disproportionately impact Black and Brown communities. And so being able to advocate for public health policy that helps those communities is just one way that I could hopefully use the privilege that I've got. And just being able to give people an option on the ballot. I mean, you know how hard it is to run a statewide campaign, and just being able to have the time and energy and capacity to do that is its own privilege. And so just trying to be a voice for people so that people can look at the ballot and say, this is somebody that I would want to represent me.
All right, and is there anything else that you want to talk about that we may not have covered?
I would love for people to go follow the social media stuff that I run. Well, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter as Kelly for Arkansas. I try to keep things kind of fun and enjoyable and educational, bring people into the conversation. And then I'm always talking about where I'm going to be because we're traveling all over the state. And so I'd love to meet you. So hopefully if you follow along, you can see where we're going to be and can bump into you out on the campaign trail.
And again, it is Kelly for Arkansas on all social media. Now, of course, you talked about traveling the state. Any upcoming stops, especially here in Northeast Arkansas?
Northeast Arkansas, we were just there pretty recently. I think this coming week I'm heading to Huntsville, which is still Northwest Arkansas, and then back down to Central. Goodness, I don't have a calendar in front of me, so it's a little chaotic. Sometimes I'm trying to plan the next thing, and then I'm just forgetting all the stuff that I've just recently been at. But we'll get back out there. Jonesboro is one of my favorite places to visit. We have a good time when we go out there.
All right, and we thank you so much for stopping by today. Kelly for Arkansas is the website if you want to check her out, support, donate, or request to sign, any of that good stuff right there. And of course, again, Kelly Ken, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. We do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. We do provide these interviews for informational purposes only, but we are going to always tell you to exercise your right to vote. Election day is November 8th. Early voting starts October 24th. I believe the last day to register to vote is October 8th. But don't wait until then. Go ahead and get registered to vote right now and make your voice known. And of course, going on, starting at 11 o'clock today is going to be our donor appreciation brunch. It's going to be at the Wildflower event venue. So if you support KLK, feel free to drop by. Allie and T-Rail, they are there now as we speak. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Community Conversations. You guys have a great and blessed day. This is KLEK 102.5 FM. All right, Thank you so much for
Hey,
joining us. And of course, we wish you the best. And we will talk to you soon.
thanks, Laganzi. Tell the wife to feel better.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.